Alright everybody, I'm bringing you another video here, and it's been a while, but I thought I'd give you just an overview of my GSX-S750 that I purchased back in 2018. Have around 12,000, almost 12,000 miles on it, have 11.8 to be exact. Just wanted to give you guys a rundown on what I think about it, and then I'll start hopping on the bike, take it for a spin, and show you guys what I think. So, live out the bike before I hop on it. It is a 749cc engine, as you've already seen, the little brother of the GSX-S1000. This bike, definitely have a lot to say, mostly good things about it. I know there's a lot of competition out there, which I will definitely talk about a little bit later. But yeah, so besides that engine, it's derived from the K5 GSX-R750, which has around 148 brake horsepower and around 64 foot-pounds of torque. This bike here, which is called, or it's classified as a standard instead of a super sport, so it's more upright, less fairings, more comfortable, but still has that sporty feel. This one has around 112, according to Suzuki, brake horsepower with around 59-60 foot-pounds of torque. So yeah, besides the engine, as you can see, great looking bike. I always get a lot of compliments about it. I really like the color that the 2018 came out with, aside from that all red, and they had an all matte black. But it hasn't really changed since 2017 up until 2022. So it's definitely the same bike, just different colors up until this point. But yeah, so just want to give you a little walk around before I start it up, before I hop on it, take off. Alright, so as you see, as I now get on the bike, I know the gas tank is around 4 liters. It's definitely a big, massive tank, very wide, very beefy in the front. And the seat is around 32 inches, so I have a slight bend in my knees at 6 foot tall. And as I say too, a lot of the aftermarket parts that I put on it, I know as I look at the dash here, I'll make it quick, so I know you guys already know all about the, as you can see, the horn, on and off switch. On this side you have your modes, which you can select from, which would be off, mode 1, 2, and 3. So mode 1, as they claim from the website, which is more of a kind of faster rider, you want to leave it in mode 1. Mode 2, city riding with regular road conditions, and then mode 3 is more of a conditions when it's probably, raining outside and all that. But you got your, obviously, gear indicators down here. That's the start button. What am I talking about? You got your start button there, horn there, and then you have your flasher there. Alright, so let me start this bad boy up. So as you see, now the exhaust that I put on there, which is a Yoshimura Alpha T, definitely has a low grunt to it. Sounds really good. Even at idle. Gotta love the inline 4. I know it does have the low RPM assist to help from stalling when you get going, and then it also has, so it has that quick start where you just press it once and it turns right on. So little things that they added to it, which is pretty cool. So as I put into gear now, one thing too is this clutch, as I'll talk about later, which is definitely is, from all the bikes that I've ridden, is definitely a heavier clutch for sure. Oh yeah, so coming out of first gear, that's where, I know it tops out around 11.5. right under 12 RPMs. Definitely sounds very, very nice. All right, so you know what? Let's just jump into the things I like about it. Big one, which is that engine. It's just wow. Every time I jump from my MT10 or which I know even that bike for me is way more power than I even need. I feel this engine is just something that is definitely enough for the road and for just around town. Not going to say it's the fastest of the lineup in terms of brake horsepower and torque, in terms of this middle class, but I mean it's kind of in a class of its own. You know, if you compare it to, let's say, the Kawasaki, the Ninja 650, or the CBR 650, the MT-07, this bike I know is definitely a little bit quicker than those, but they can definitely keep up. But you can't really also compare it to the, let's say, the MT-09, the Z900, or the KTM 890 Duke, or also the Street Triple, to name a few. Obviously those are definitely going to be a lot quicker. I know those are approaching the 1000 cc category. I know those are the more of the 900-ish, but I know in terms of the price of this one is going for $8,500, and I know the Z900 is right there. It's about $500 more at $9,000, and then you have your MT-09, which is at $95,000. So I know for the Z900, my dad has a Z900 RS Cafe, as you probably, I don't know if you guys seen that video yet, but that bike, I would say, even smoother than this bike. This engine, I gotta say, is very smooth. I know the Suzuki gearbox, as a lot of people say, it's very smooth gearbox. Maybe with the price of it is now, it's not something that, I know for a lot of people, it's only 500 less than jumping up to the Z900, and then also 1,000 less to the MT-09. So a lot of people might just want to just spend the extra money and get themselves a bike that has more power and torque. But I gotta say, this bike, it definitely holds its own. There's definitely a well-rounded bike. I know as I started with the engine, aside from that, I know the weight of this bike is definitely a little bit heavier. I gotta say, I believe it was over 460 pounds. I could be wrong. I'll even post it up on the screen there. So once you're moving, definitely don't feel it, but if you're at a stoplight, if you're moving around at slower speeds, that's where you can definitely feel the weight of this bike a little bit more. But once you're going, I mean, it's becomes very flickable, especially in the turns and the curves is where I really have a lot of fun in this bike. Now I know with the dash, as I kind of skipped over that, the dash is a LCD screen, same as the Z900, whereas the MT-09, don't quote me on that, but I know the MT-09 has a newer TFT display, so this still has the LCD screen, but it still shows what I need to see. So another thing too about this bike, I gotta say, is the brakes. I know the brakes has the 4-piston caliper in the front, the 2-piston caliper in the rear from Nissan, and those, I gotta say, for me using it a good amount of times where I had to really stop on the brakes, they did very well. I know it's one strong point with this bike is the brakes, and that they have good brakes, which it does. It definitely comes to a stop very quick, and that's something that I haven't had any issues with. So that is what I believe was just a defective part. It started leaking coolant all over the floor after after a day's ride, and I was very confused with what was going on until I turned it on and threw off the code that it did the whole paperclip trick. So the code actually said it was this part that needed to be replaced. So it was a quick fix. It took around a couple rides. After I got back, it still was leaking out coolant, but I believe it just had to recalibrate and then get adjusted. That was the only thing I came across that was something that had to be replaced. So, but yeah, other than that, everything works perfectly fine. Haven't had any issues. So yeah, it's definitely been reliable thus far, and hopefully it stays that way. So here we go. Now that it's darker, I can kind of show you guys going from low beam to high beam. Yeah, so as you can see, definitely gives me a better view going from low to high. I see way up there and a good amount on the sides.